School, starring Penn. My name is Michael Klaper. Penn, Matt Donnelly, and I are broadcasting from the Show Creator Studios in Las Vegas. On today's show, we're going to talk to the man about to drive our friend, boss, and podcast pal to insanity. We're going to meet Penn's water fasting guru. Dr. Michael Klaper is here. Here he is preaching love, Mr. Penn Gillette.
Yeah, we're preaching love here, and I'm going to, we got bank shows we're doing, because I'm going to spend the next X number of weeks doing a water-only fast. Mm-hmm. I discovered that you have to say water-only fast. If you say water fast, people go, oh, you're going to die after 3 days. But I'm not fasting from water, I'm fasting with water. And I've done something a little bit performance arty. Mm-hmm. I had to get, Dr. Klaper wanted me to get some blood taken today.
Sure.
So I was going to do it this morning, and then my phlebotomist, don't worry, she's fine. She had a traffic accident.
Oh, no.
She's fine, but she couldn't take my blood, so I had to get my blood taken in the afternoon, and I had to be fasting for my blood. Mm-hmm. So even though I haven't started my fast until tomorrow, I have not eaten since last night when I had a few little blueberries.
All right.
So I am wicked hungry. So talking about a water-only fast while wicked hungry seems like a really, really good idea. And I will put this disclaimer in, and we will repeat this disclaimer over and over again. I think we need to. In my book, Presto, about losing weight, I say very clearly, if you get your medical advice from a Las Vegas magician, you are an asshole and you deserve to die. I was talking about doing some severe mono diet stuff, some severe calorie restriction, and I gave that disclaimer very strongly. Now we're going to be talking about me fasting, and that disclaimer cannot be given strongly enough. I believe, and I'll let you explain this, but you say 3 days water only fast, no sweat. You might be able to do 4 or 5, but you need serious medical help if you're going to go more than that. Do you want to amplify that, someone?
No, that's basically says it in a nutshell, but certainly I will amplify it. Most healthy people, and I underline healthy, I'll come back to that in a minute, nature certainly equips us to go 72 hours without eating solid food, and in fact we can go several weeks, most people, without eating solid food, except very, very skinny people starting off. And so 72 hours, 96 hours on water, most people can do that without a problem, and they often get very good results, which we'll, I'm sure, be talking about. Now, before we go on, there are some folks who shouldn't even do 72 or 48 hours on water fast. If you are a type 1 diabetic on insulin, if you are someone with kidney failure or on severe medications of any type that you're getting prescriptions for, you really shouldn't be doing a water fast, or at least should be talking with a doctor who knows about it. But if you're not on any medications, or you want to get off medications and you're not terribly dependent upon them, then it's a reasonable thing to do. And 48, 72 hours are safe for most everybody. After 5 days, things start happening. Most everybody experiences a drop in blood pressure. Some people can feel nauseated and have some vomiting. And you don't want to be alone and without some guidance if you either stand up and feel like you're going to pass out, or you feel like you're going to start vomiting. You don't want to get into that territory. So for a day, 2, 3, most people have no problem with it, and the body really benefits greatly.
Now, someone sent me this link for a movie that's coming out called Fasting the Movie. And they were making extraordinary claims during this in interview stuff, curing cancer, curing diabetes, doing this, doing that. Now, you've worked very hard to take something that's in the area of religion and nut science and all sorts of other stuff, and bring that with a real medical degree into it. So when did you start studying fasting seriously?
Well, I have to say, about 9 years ago, I left my job as an acute care physician in New Zealand, actually, and joined a clinic in Northern California, True North Health Center. And for the subsequent 8.5 years, worked at this institution that basically gets people off their medications and gets them feeling better by the keystone is a whole food plant-based diet. But to accelerate the benefits of that, they have a very active water fasting program, and they will fast people anywhere from 1 day up to 40 days is the longest fast they'll do. But 2-week, 3-week, 4-week fasts are common there. And these are fasts that are supervised. There are physicians on staff. People have their vital signs taken twice a day. This is nutritional medicine done right. But we use water fasting extensively there. We see remarkable results, which we'll go into.
Yeah, go into them without overhyping. What kind of stuff do you see?
Right. Well, and I'm glad we've got some time here to explore this. If we turn our evolutionary clock back a couple million years to our ancient ancestors on the African savanna, you can imagine that many times, probably 4, 5, 6 days would go by before you found the next berry bush with fruit on it or the next carcass rotting in the sun. And the body just had to adapt for days with just running on stored fat tissue and the sugar that's stored in our muscles. And the human body, unlike most other primates, chimpanzees can't fast, but we can. We can burn.
Chimpanzees can't fast?
No, apparently not. They're not able to metabolize their fat tissue for prolonged periods of time like we can. And
do they store fat the same way we do, or is it that different?
No, they don't have a lot of subcutaneous fat. Those big bellies are mostly full of fiber and gas and air. But no, their liver doesn't have the ability to deal with the fatty acids.
Gassy Gorilla was your high school band.
Absolutely, yeah. Played a lot of basements.
So the body can, after 48 hours of not taking in calories, the body burns through the sugar that's floating in the bloodstream, stored in your liver, stored in your muscles, and then starts burning in fat stores. And at that point, amazing things start happening in the body. The body starts metabolizing these long-chain fats, and so the fragments of these fats are called ketones, and there's lots of them in the bloodstream. And the ketones are chemical triggers for the body to kick in some absolutely remarkable processes. First of all, if the body thinks it's starving, and let's delineate the difference. A fast is when you're running on stored fat cells and you're not burning muscle. Okay, you're still you afterwards. Once you burn through entirely your stored fat, and then you start metabolizing muscle cells for energy, that's starvation. We don't want anybody going near there. So when the body's in the state of ketosis, the body thinks that it doesn't know if any more calories are coming in, and so if it thinks that it might be starving to death, it doesn't want to waste energy on any wasteful, non-productive reactions. Like what? Inflammation. When the body, after about 4 or 5 days on the fast, we see the people with the inflamed joints, they start cooling right down. The body suppresses inflammation on a fast. The big angry plaques of psoriasis.
So the arthritis in my thumbs, which I had very badly, I went 3 years ago, which is what we're always going to go back to, when I did the 3 months with Cray-Ray. It wasn't even billboarded that I was going to get arthritis better. And my arthritis got wicked better. And now it's down to very minor. Is it going to get even better than that?
It may well. Absolutely.
Oh, my goodness gracious.
Absolutely.
And I had psoriasis.
Yes.
I live in the Mojave, so I thought that was just dry skin. With the diet, that went away mostly, too.
Indeed. And we see this. And when I was just in regular general practice, and the patients with the psoriasis would come in with these big angry plaques, I used to want to run the other way because you throw the steroids at them and the ultraviolet light, and they would fade slowly over weeks. Boy, we put people on a water fast, and by day 7, day 10, those plaques are fading away right in front of your eyes. We take pictures, and by day 20, 21, they're darn near gone. It's really remarkable how the body turns off inflammation.
Now, we want to get into maybe I'll let you do this in order.
Yeah, sure.
But we will get to how long-lasting these things are after, right? But let's go through the other stuff, other magic things that happen.
Okay, fair enough. Well, moving on down the progression of wasteful reactions that the body doesn't want to spend calories on if it thinks that it's starving to death and every calorie is needed for beating your heart and running your muscles, etc. Another totally useless reaction is running a malignant tumor, running a cancer. If you're starving to death, that's the last thing you want to spend calories on. And indeed, it turns out that there's been reports in the literature that women with breast cancers get on a very low-fat diet, low-calorie diet, the breast cancers regress. And Dr. Dean Ornish puts his guys with prostate cancers on low-calorie plant-based diets, and their prostate cancers stop growing. And at True North, we had 2 women come in with nasty lymphomas. Yvonne had a tumor the size of her abdomen, the size of a grapefruit, and that just melted away on a fast.
Now, have you noticed this? Whenever a woman has a tumor, it's described in terms of fruit, and when a man has a tumor, it's described in terms of baseballs. A grapefruit-sized tumor in a woman becomes a softball-sized tumor in a man. An orange-sized tumor in a woman becomes a baseball-sized tumor in a man. It's just more of the sexism in our culture.
There you go.
But it really is interesting. If you're going to have a tumor, gender matters. So she had a grapefruit-sized.
She had a grapefruit-sized tumor, and that melted away over several weeks. Another patient had lymph nodes the size of hen's eggs in her groin and her abdomen and in her armpits there, and they melted away by day 18.
And if she had been a man, it would have been golf balls.
Probably so. Well said.
Ping pong.
Thank you.
Ping pong ball, sure.
Now, I don't want to imply that fast that makes all cancers dissolve. Lymphomas are watery tumors, and they have a high immune component to them that where the drive is sedated on a fast. So those tumors respond very well. But the fact that it has an anti-tumor effect at all, there's molecules, I want to turn into a chemistry lesson, but there's molecules called sirtuins that are released in the cells that turn off the cancer growth. The body knows how to do this. And so...
But if you're going to have survival, why wouldn't the body do that with a full diet going through?
Right. Digesting food is really expensive energetically.
It's like 80%.
About 80% of the food you spend, of the energy you spend during the day has something to do with digesting the food, either going out and getting it, swallowing it.
This was the most depressing thing I'd heard. I really do. It really is. Because it really tells you everything of why any shortcut diet you've ever been on doesn't work. And why you say don't water fast if you want to lose weight. A lot of people will do what are they called? Like a Hollywood diet. They'll juice fast for 3 days before their big event or something, right? And then the weight comes right back. When you realize that there's an equal energy deficit that goes with your calorie deficit. I'm saying this incorrectly, but you understand what I'm saying.
You're saying you need to not eat more food than you not eat.
That's it. There's no shortcut. You have to eat food that is really hard to store fat from. Fruits and vegetables, they're really hard to store fat from versus the other stuff. That's the only way. That's the only way. Otherwise, you're not going to run a deficit, right?
It's not a matter of so much a calorie deficit. That's a very astute observation. I don't think twice about how many calories I'm eating, and whether you have a third baked potato or another helping of vegetable soup, it doesn't matter. But you're saying it's all fiber and water.
Yeah.
You can get them fairly dense. The issue is avocados and nuts and the fattier foods.
Right.
And we'll get into this. If you eat them with green vegetables or on their own, a handful of almonds or a handful of walnuts eaten by themselves is not going to put weight on you. If you eat it with a bunch of sugar, you'll burn the sugar and store the fats.
And this chat must have gotten harder for you in recent years, only because it was very hard to you used to be able to just say eat vegan food, and vegans didn't learn how to do all these crazy calorie hijacking that fast food does.
Very good.
But now vegans do know how to hijack calories.
Absolutely.
And so it's not the same thing anymore to say vegan and plant-based or vegan and calorie rich or nut or fiber rich or that kind of stuff.
Exactly. If you're having a vegan veggie burger on a flour bun slathered with vegan mayonnaise and pickle relish, you're probably going to pronounce.
And there are places in LA that have vegan Big Macs.
Wow, really?
Yes. I mean, they actually advertise it that way.
Wow. Huh.
And there's a place that has Hostess cupcakes that are called Fostess, F-A-U-X, Fostess cupcakes that I don't think can be any better for you than Hostess cupcakes.
They are not.
And unfortunately, I really have seen people who have been either diagnosed with cancer or with a cancer scare, and they switch over to that form of veganism thinking they're going to do their body favors, and because no one explains it the way you were explaining it, it can be dangerous.
Very astute, sir. It all kind of runs together in one word: whole food, plant-based. But with the stop, whole food. We're talking about food like it grew out of the garden that you could call by name. There's a ear of corn. There's a tomato. There's a hill of beans there. That kind of food. We're not talking about anything made of flour products, extracted oils, refined sugars, all the stuff that go into vegan donuts and cookies and cakes and buns and burgers and all that kind of stuff. They're treat foods. Once a week you can have a veggie burger, but your main daily fare should be, if you want a breakfast at all, a big bowl of oatmeal, fruit, and lunches and dinners are big salads and hearty vegetable soups and lentil stews and bean burritos without the cheese there, and hearty chilies and curries and papayas and mangoes for desserts. And there's lots of good things to eat, but it just has to grow out of the ground and not come out of a
papayas and mangoes, blueberries, pomegranates.
Yay.
Pomegranates are the best food ever. Of course, the amount of pomegranates I can eat will startle you. Maybe I'll show off tonight. Okay, so all your inflammation goes away, all your cancer goes away, and we've only got a week. What else is in store for us?
Everything changes. It's a remarkable experience that the fasters go through, and like Professor Forrest Gump said, every fast is like a box of chocolates. You don't know what you're going to get, and many people just breeze through them. Doc, I didn't even know I was fasting. I was hungry for a day or so, and then I wasn't hungry, felt great. They just cruise right on through. Other folks, boy, they get skin rashes and cough, and they have loose stools, and then they get a big detox reaction. It's hard to tell. I've got a feeling you're not going to have much of a problem at all.
Let's talk about this. Let's fight about this, shall we?
All right.
When we were doing a show, bullshit, we did a show on colonics, right?
Yep.
And this word, detox, is a word that seems to be totally bullshit. When people say we're going on a detox juice, so on, I mean, the toxins are taken out of your body by your liver and your kidneys, right? When you say detox, let's give you the benefit of the doubt and say you're not a fucking nut. What do you mean by detox?
Right, okay. I'm saying that in our fat tissues, we all have remnant molecules of every restaurant meal you ever ate, every fast food snack you ever.
And what are those molecules?
These are artificial colorings and flavorings and preservatives and dough conditioners and yellow number 3 dye and tartrazine and preservatives and stabilizers and the chemicals of modern cuisine.
But what about the argument that those things have been through more rigorous testing, and there's more carcinogenics in regular food because it had to protect itself?
Right.
All food is trying to be poisonous, so it's not food.
Right.
Are those remnants of fast food really that bad for you?
Well, when you look at the state of health of most people, the body was designed, we really evolved in a much more Edenic situation where the water was pure and the air was pure and then there weren't pesticides, etc. And that's what our mitochondria are used to, the milieu they're used to doing their energy metabolism in, our nuclei, our chromosomes are used to dividing in these manners, and gene induction is happening in these conditions. Now we've polluted the watery milieu of our tissues, of our cells, that with this constant stream of these chemicals that have never been encountered in the body before, to think that they have no effect. When you look at all the low-grade inflammatory reactions, the brain fog, the mental fatigue, the muscle aches, the autoimmune diseases, the things that are happening that weren't part of classical medicine, you have to. From a scientific viewpoint, you have to say, how could they not have some effect? Those cells could not function the same way they would be functioning on pure water and on pure fuel, of all types. Of course, it has some effect. And when people are on a fast and you start melting down your fat tissues, in some people, a surge of those stored pollutants come into circulation. And you're right, they're on the way to the liver and the kidney to be excreted. But in the meantime, you can feel muscle achy and skin.
Do they show up in tests when you're?
Yeah.
Go ahead, sorry. Do they show up in tests?
They show up in
Do these
tests.
chemicals show up in ways that are measurable or observable?
Right. If one is looking for that, I imagine we don't. We just clinically, though we see liver enzyme elevations not infrequently. The liver really is churning away on a water fast, and some of these folks clearly have a good toxin load to get rid of. And they say like a water fast is like taking your cells to the car wash, and just day after day, you're just washing fresh water through your cells, day after day after day.
Well, that certainly is the mental analogy that I'm looking forward to. Of course, that's not what it is, but poetically, it's certainly what I'm looking forward to.
And it seems like what he's at least trying to, what I'm interpreting from you're saying medically, and what gets it a step ahead of mumbo jumbo that we hear at everywhere we walk around at the Whole Foods or whatever, is that what you're actually doing is. Our cleanse is actually a form of a fast where we kind of trick our body into accessing its reserves. And so this big detox you might experience is just simply the process of accessing our reserves that are already polluted?
Yes. Well said. Yes, well said.
So we're re-eating the Krispy Kremes we ate years ago.
Yeah, indeed. But it only lasts.
That's motivating in and of itself.
You have to floss.
I hope so.
You don't have to floss afterwards. They usually blows through in 48 hours. The nausea is gone, the skin rash is gone, the liver gears up its enzymes, the kidneys get more efficient, and it probably lowers the load of whatever in the bloodstream at that time. We don't go looking for the specific molecules, but you can tell from the person. You do rounds on them. By day 4, they're, phew, do I feel much better? And zoop, up they go. It's just kind of a tunnel that about a quarter of the folks pass through. But most folks don't feel much at all except hungry.
So the next toxins, and then when does my blood pressure get fixed?
Well, we've had quite a number of folks who have high blood pressure issues and that benefit from the fast. People crank up their blood pressures for a couple of reasons. The standard Western diet, based on meats and dairies and oils, injures the artery walls. Everything from plaques to fibrous tissue can develop in the walls of the arteries. They become stiffer. And then the salt in the diet makes you retain fluid. So instead of pumping around 8 pints of blood, you're pumping around 9 pints of blood in stiff artery walls. And that cranks the pressure up, as any plumber will tell you. On the water fast, the opposite happens. There's usually a diuresis. People pee luxuriously during the first 48, 72 hours.
I was hoping he was going to say luxuriously. He did.
Enjoy them.
Don't cross the streams.
And that just lets fluid out of the pipes. It just reduces the intravascular volume, and that's going to lower the pressure. And the artery walls, as the fast goes on, the artery walls start to relax, and we can talk about why, but that seems to happen as well. And we see the blood pressure reductions. In fact, it's inevitable. You cannot hold high blood pressure on water. Eventually, everybody's blood pressure is going to come down. The question is how and how long it takes. I've seen the dozens of guys, and they're usually men with the blood pressure issues that we fasted. There seems to be 2 patterns. One is that once you go through the initial 3, 4, 5 days, there's a steady downward march of the blood pressure, and over the course of the next 7, 10, 12 days, everybody's happy with the 120s, 130s systolics that you get without medications. But I remember Mark from Hawaii came over, and he was so stubborn with his blood pressure every morning, making rounds 160, 90, 160, 90, 160, 90, day 10, day 20. Finally, on day 24, enough sodium had left his system, had left his artery walls, brought him, boom, 110, 70. And it was.
And was he a fat guy?
No, he wasn't. He was was pudgy, but not grossly fat. And we were so happy when we saw that 110/70. We said, keep fasting for another 3, 4, 5 days. We want to convince your arteries this is his new resting pressure. Believe this pressure. And so he stayed fasting for another 5 days, and he finally left with very decent blood pressure.
How long ago was that?
Oh, that was about 4 years ago.
And where's his blood pressure now? Do you any follow-up?
Mark, yeah, he lives on Maui, and he's an interesting guy that has similar issues. He's Italian, and when he gets back into the pasta and the olive oil, he puts on a few pounds, and I'm sure the spaghetti sauce has some salt in it, and the pressure comes up. And he came back to do a second fast, got a good result quicker, but still, he's one of these guys until he really changes his basic physiognomy of where he really drop a bunch of weight.
A guy like me, or let's say me, who 3 years ago lost 110 pounds. My blood pressure before that, I guess truth be told, for 10 years, no doctor had ever really gotten it below 180.
Yeah.
Not really.
Yeah.
And when I was in the hospital, I was 220.
Yeah.
I mean, just unspeakable. Stroke city. And not in the good sense. And
Not Stroke City, Stroke City.
exactly. And then I changed my diet radically. You said things to me early on that I thought were crazy talk. I said, well, I'm always going to, every couple of weeks, have a wild feast of steak and hamburgers. And you said, sure. Go ahead, but you might not. And I thought you were talking crazy. And sure enough, desire for chicken went away first. It was disgusting to me. Desire for fish went away right after that. Desire for steak held out longer. Hamburgers held out longer but went away. And then I was sure this year that my desire for butter and cheese were never going to go away. And just over the past month, it starts to seem to me like rotten milk and not pleasant. And even when I went out to have a wild time and have some bread and butter, I actually said at Rio's, this big fancy Italian place, do you have some olive oil for this butter instead of butter for this? The desire went away. And that was stuff that you had kind of in a sage way kind of said, well, let's see. And my blood pressure meds, as you know, because you have all my blood work and all my stuff, I remain on some blood pressure, and I stay around 140, sometimes up to 160. Now, you and Furman and Ray all said you've done the work, you stay on this diet, your blood pressure will eventually go down. And sure enough, very slowly it's gone down, but not enough. Now, a guy like me, who's already done a lot of the work you want Mark on Maui to do with his pasta, has already done that work. What's going to happen to me? How is that going to, because you can't make the argument that during this time I'm not on the oil, I'm not on the salt, because there have been a lot of times I haven't been, blood pressure still stayed up. What's going to kick it in now?
Oh, Penn, first of all, before we get into the mechanics of blood pressure regulation, I really want to commend you for what you just shared with your audience. I hope everybody heard that here's a man, a devoted connoisseur and carnivore, for decades and decades. You can lose your taste for chicken and flesh. You just see them as pieces of animal flesh.
It's supernatural.
I
mean, all of you kind of gave me this really condescending bullshit punch in the face. Yeah, you still want the food now. Just wait. And there was no chance you were right. And then now, I mean, and I watch people eat chicken, and it's like when I was a child watching the National Geographic guys eating grubs out of the ground. You go, and shrimp. And, I was out the other day and someone had lobster, and I went there just eating a bug. I sure would like some spinach. And I liked all that rich stuff. And it goes goes away. And I tell people now, give it 3 months, hardcore, just do it, and then it'll get easier.
Yes, what a wonderful thing. You've just saved millions of lives. Thank you for saying that.
What is this next step I'm taking?
All right, so let me focus in on you, because you're the real issue right now. So I have to get a little scientific-y here. The question is, why is your blood pressure still up? From a medical point of view, if I'm really thinking what's going on in this guy's body, the blood pressure is a result of a number of factors. One is how strong the heart is beating, and you seem to have a nice strong heart. That's not an issue. The other is how tightly the arteries are clamped down and how much fluid the kidneys are retaining. When you were eating all that salt and fat and stiffened your arteries and retained all that fluid, you held it for decades, and either we talk about a metabolic set where your body gets used to this blood pressure and your kidneys get used to it. The kidneys have a major role to play in secreting hormones that make your arteries clamp down. They secrete hormones that make you retain fluid, and your kidneys were subjected to this high pressure state for 20 years, 30 years, and on some level 50 years. and you've done this amazing turnaround in the last 12, 16 months, but clearly there's deep in your nephric tissue, in your kidneys there, the hormonal wrench is still clamped down. Some hormone is probably being cranked out a little too high because you're so tall. When you stand up, gravity will tend to pull blood out of your head big time, and so your kidneys,
giraffes have high blood pressure.
Indeed, for a similar reason. Yeah. And so your kidneys, they want to keep a slightly highish pressure in you anyway, just to keep the cerebral blood flow up. So we're working against kidney physiology and gravity here a little bit, but because you've done this.
I'm glad you said that, because somebody told me, and they made a rather compelling case. They said, when you're watching this, make sure your doctor thinks about the fact that you're 6'7".
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, that absolutely figures into blood pressure.
Oh, for sure it does. But because you've done the work that you've done, you've lost the weight, you've cleaned up your diet, and your body's responded in very good ways that we don't have to reinvent the wheel. This is just a beautifully strategic time to do a water fast, and it might be the little kick of the Coke machine there to get the things going. I'm dating myself with that analogy. Yeah. There used to be machines. That's you never will go into that. But it's exactly why we're doing this. Because the water fast sends a message to your kidneys to lighten up. No need to hold high pressure on a water fast, and levels of renin and angiotensin and stuff go down. There's one reason I was so enthusiastic about. Yes, this would be a great time to do the fast. It might be the last coup de grace on your blood pressure thing to finally dilate those vessels.
What I don't get is when you describe these wonderful effects, I can see how the water fast at the beginning if I'd have done the water fast back in 2015,
right,
when I was 110 pounds overweight, that kicks out the whole thing.
Right.
Now it's not like I'm taking in that bad food. I haven't done that, and there's still another kick.
There still is.
Just teaching the kidneys that we're done with that.
Exactly right, and your adrenals and everything. That's all part and parcel of the same machinery. We want to reset the machinery here, and 20 days on water can do that in a number of ways.
How does that not happen with him eating? Like, he eats very low salt now. Right. Eats plant-based now. How come that doesn't relax?
Yeah, it eventually would, and he told us that pressure, it is slowly coming down.
Okay.
And as the months go by and the years go by, he'll eventually get there. As his weight will probably drop down another 20, 30 pounds, and that pressure will finally nestle down. But again, with your frame, your brain may need a systolic head of pressure of 140 millimeters of mercury. We learned the hard way in the 70s 1970s, we had.
Are you talking about his ego? His ego to me.
He's got to keep his ego at a 140. If he gets lower than that, it's ugly.
In the 1970s, these powerful drugs to lower blood pressure came out, and we were all told to get those blood pressures down, and so we did, and we took these elderly men and women who've been running 150, 160 pressures, and we put them and we dropped their pressure down to 110, 120. Thought we were doing something good, and a lot of them had strokes. So there just wasn't enough pressure. Had to keep the lights on upstairs, and your body may need a 140-ish pressure for a while, but it still slowly come down. But will it ever be 110? Man, it doesn't matter. Yeah, you're going to get hit by a truck at 110 because you didn't look both ways when you cross the street. I don't think a stroke or a heart attack or a blood pressure issue is going to be a problem.
Now, how many people have you personally been involved in a over 5-day fast, for instance?
Oh, well,
well over thousands.
Well over 1,000. Yeah, absolutely. We over. Yes.
Did we talk about how he came to this?
No, we didn't. Let's go to that.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah, I was just curious. Like you said that you used to see these things and run. You used to see these.
Right.
See these in the way you had to treat people, you felt bad. The way you had to treet people, and then you found this water fasting thing.
Also, were you ever a fat fuck?
No, but I was I was 40 pounds heavier than I am. Yes, no, I was much heavier, no question.
So he diagnoses fat fuck at above 40 pounds.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
No, I have not a fat fuck.
Many people are cheering. I'm not a fat fuck. I'm only 35 pounds over.
That's the official criteria for chronic fat fuckosis. So I've been doing acute care medicine since I graduated University of Illinois back in '72. I've had postgraduate training in anesthesia, surgery, internal medicine, orthopedics, and I made my living in doing acute care medicine, urgent care clinics, emergency rooms, operating rooms, etc. But I always felt a bit like a fraud because especially the overweight guys with the pot bellies and the high blood pressure and the diabetes and the clogged arteries would come in, and I didn't know what the hell to tell them. Lose some weight, Joe. Try and take a walk more, But I fiddle with their medication, and then as they're going out the door, I'd whisper under my breath, "And don't have your stroke when I'm on call." And that's a very unsatisfying way to practice medicine. I didn't know what else to tell them. So I left general practice. I went to become an anesthesiologist, and I did most of an anesthesia residency. And a couple things happened there. I saw every day I'm putting people to sleep on the cardiovascular service and watching surgeons open their chest and from their arteries and their heart pulling out this yellow, greasy guck that looked like chicken fat. And one day a little voice from my shoulder said, "There's a good reason why."
That's actually chicken fat.
It is chicken fat. Cow fat and pig fat and the fat of other slow animals that were walking past his table when he had a fork in his hand. And my dad died of clogged arteries. I knew I was going to be laying on that table with that striker saw going up my sternum, and I said I didn't want that. And one day I'm working it's a 7-hour vascular procedure. It was a 4-vessel coronary artery bypass and a ventricular aneurysm repair. We start at 7 in the morning. It's 3 in the afternoon before the whole OR team goes down to the cafeteria. And as luck would have it, I'm pushing my tray right behind the surgeon, who is the most obese man I've ever worked with as a surgeon. Nice man, good surgeon, but huge abdomen on him. And I'm watching as he loads up his tray with a cheeseburger, a milkshake, and a slice of cream pie. And I'm thinking to myself that I am working in a Fellini movie. This is bizarre. What does this man think he's been doing for the past 7 hours up in that operating room? I hear the saying in the Bible, it will happen to thee and to thee, but not to me. And this guy must ascribe to that belief. And between the messages, I stopped eating animals, basically, and 20 pounds spare tire fat melted off my waist. My high blood pressure disappeared. My high cholesterol normalized. I felt great waking up in a lean body. And I realized I didn't want to spend my time putting people to sleep, doing anesthesia. I'd rather go out back to general practice and help them wake up. And so, because now I knew what to tell them. Clean up your diet, and most of these things go away. And sure enough, I went back to general practice, and I had a friend who gave plant-based cooking lessons, sent them over to her.
What year is this?
This was 1981.
Okay. Oh.
And they started reporting the same thing to me. The weight loss came.
But you got them to do it.
Yeah, they got to do it.
No doctors get
every
anybody
doctor
to do
that
it.
I know
Every
says.
doctor tells you that, but no one listens. My doctor, he said, of all the people he told to lose weight in all his practice, he's a fellow maybe 5-10 years younger than me, been a doctor his whole life. He's precisely one person who's lost the weight he should, and that was me.
Right. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
But they tell you.
Doctors who are in pediatrics says, kids do what I tell them. I became a pediatrician because kids do what I say. Their parents make them do it.
Right. But the point of the doc did what I used to do. You ought to lose some weight, but he didn't tell them, here is what you are to eat. I made up handouts that turned into a book. Eat this for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and eat salads and soups and greens and steamed veggies and chilies and lentil stews, etc. And the obesity starts to melt away, and the joints stop hurting, and the skin clears up, and the blood pressure comes down, and the diabetes gets better, and the asthma stops wheezing, and they turn into normal, healthy people.
You just threw asthma in there in the last minute. See?
I know.
He keeps throwing in one thing, and your dick gets bigger, by the way.
Yeah.
And you'll have a hit TV show. No glasses.
Well, the point is that the Western diet, based on the meat and the dairy and the oils and the dairy and the cheese and the sugars, etc., has become so toxic that it bubbles up through all the organ systems. And the cardiologist sees the clogged arteries, and the internist sees the high blood pressure, and the rheumatologist sees the sore joints, and the dermatologist sees the psoriasis, and the gastroenterologist sees the colitis. They're all looking at the same disease. It's this toxic diet that we're eating. Put them on a whole food, plant-based diet, and most of these things go away within weeks. When you stop hitting yourself in the head with a hammer, the headaches go away. You know?
And so you discovered that.
Yes.
There's still a big step to the fasting.
Right.
When did that step get taken?
So I had been a plant-based doc for 30 years, and then I got this job at True North Health Center in Northern California. And then water fasting was added on top of this, because that ultimately gets back to...
You weren't a fast guy at all before you got the
not
gig.
before this. No, I was just a plant-based guy, and I was happy with that. But when this opportunity came up, I took it, and I'm very glad, because it is, when you ask, because behind this is, we're talking about all this wonderful effects that happens in water fasting, but the issue is, what do you eat after the fast? Because if you fall back into chicken and cheese land, Cinderella turns back into a pumpkin within days. It's
Same
shocking.
diet, same results.
And this is what we're talking about with the how long does the effects last. You're saying if you go back to the proper diet, they last.
They last. The water fast, and everybody needs to understand this, is a jumping off place for a whole food, plant-based diet that will keep those beneficial changes going for you. If the standard American diet sneaks back in and people leak, and we will talk about that, but then the good changes dissipate. So during the fast at True North, we give people cooking lessons. We show them videos on how to shop, how to read labels. It's not cruel and unusual punishment to go to a cooking class while you're fasting, because you're not even hungry. And we want these people to eat healthy after the fast. That's where the magic really is. The fast, nobody really needs to fast. If you just start eating a healthy diet, eventually you'll get to the same place the fast will get you.
It just speeds the results of proper eating.
Speeds it up, right. But the real key is the plant-based diet after the fast. That's what provides the real magic.
Is that the sole reason why you say don't do it if you want to lose weight?
Yeah. There's a dramatic weight loss frequently during a fast, but a lot of it is just water out of the tissues, is glycogen out of the muscles, and fiber out of the colon. And that's 10, 12 pounds. And as soon as you start eating again, within days, the water comes back in the tissues and the glycogen in the muscles, and people get all upset. Well, it was a phony weight loss to begin with. It wasn't real fat burning off of you per se. But on a whole food plant-based diet, you wind up lean, as you found out. That's where real weight loss, that's where the healthy weight loss comes from. It's not what happens on a water fast, is you just dump a bunch of fluid, etc.
Well, we're almost certain that seems very likely that I will keep my same diet after. It'd be very funny if I did the water fast and came off and said, from now on, it's steak and potatoes and butter.
Man, chicken sounds so good right now.
Absolutely.
I can't wait for chickens.
That's,
A lot of salt and proper chicken breading.
You bet.
Yeah, maybe we should. I want to get into really what the steps are going to be. You know,
Okay.
one thing that is interesting is that in analyzing myself and my motives and what I'm really thinking, I have come to realize that the high blood pressure and the medical stuff is on some level an excuse, because I want to do something really hard, and I want to do something really hard that pulls me a little bit out of the world. I got this book on fasting, which I probably shouldn't have read because it calls them chiropractors and all this jive stuff that bothers me. But you suggest in your little lecture, which I thought was wonderful, that people also fast from news and from social media. And it has been really, as Godot knows the best, really 43 years since I've taken a break.
Yeah.
Since Nam. And
no vacation, not a day off, not for a second, not for any reason. He has no interest in it. Unlike the rest of the world.
The man loves what he does.
I do.
Beautiful.
I do. I love it. Absolutely love it. And, arguments I've had in the past with girlfriends and arguments I've had in the past with people I've been involved with have almost always centered around that. You know, we're going to take a little while and have a break, and I don't want to. I want to keep going, and I usually schedule my day in about 15-minute hunks and try to get stuff done. And consequently, I do have, 5 jobs. And it's all stuff that I love, and it's all stuff that I adore. And I also don't think, and you could argue with me, Godot, on this, because you know me the best in the room, but I'm also not a very stressed person. You usually picture workaholics as being very, very upset about stuff, and I'm fairly...
The idea is that people miss it with you is that you do love it, and there's no faking that. You're not, you don't miss going and doing other stuff. You don't want to be doing other stuff, and not because there's not other stuff, but because you already enjoy what you're doing.
Yeah. If I had a job, if I were,
if you worked a few hours, a bunch of hours a week doing stuff you didn't like,
if I were an insurance salesman, I would, in my spare time, do precisely what I do now all the time. Pretty sure.
Yeah, I was going to say, beyond this philosophical thing of who you are, you love pattern. You're almost addicted to pattern. You really prefer, like, this, I wake up and do this activity, then that activity, then this activity, then that activity.
I believe in nothing stronger than habit.
Yeah.
And I like my rituals.
Yep.
I mean, I have so many qualities of religious nuts.
Yeah.
It's remarkable I don't have the religion part. Because, I'm from puritanical stock. Yep. I am uncomfortable with alcohol. I'm uncomfortable with gambling. My mom and dad had a work ethic that was very, very strong. I tend to have a kind of New England puritanical view of things.
But nothing would make you happier if Dr. Klaper said, you know what else helps? If you have to read 120 pages of literature a day. You would be like, oh, good, 120 you said? And you would know every page, every book you're reading would be marked by the 120th page.
Yeah, I'm very, very, very rule-oriented, and I love it. And one of the things that interests me so much about food is I picked up a book, only read part of it, this book by this woman, the name has escaped me, but it may come to me, who said she wanted to see journalists. She was not a scientist. Journalists wanted to see where people came down on the habits of eating. She wanted to talk to people who believed that what we desired in food was genetically coded, and those who believed what we wanted to eat for food was habit. And the problem was she couldn't find anyone on the side that there were any natural desires for food. And one of the things I found changing diets was food that I didn't like, I all of a sudden did. Just nothing at all but habit. And I also find that my comfort foods now have changed and serve the exact same function. There's this wonderful pea soup that was out of one of the Furman books that my wife makes that is now a grilled cheese sandwich for me. It's just what I want to go to when I'm uncomfortable. I find brown rice. And the one thing that doesn't go away is peanut butter. Peanut butter is still the best food.
Maybe the water fast is going to snap it.
No. But I do find that habit is really important. So you've seen that we've been talking about this for a couple months now, and you can see as everybody tells me it'll be great, Penn, to have this unstructured time. You can see me grabbing at structures over and over again. Well, I'll do this. This is the book I'm going to read.
What time's the blood test?
What time's the blood test? When is the doctor coming in? Looking for, what am I supposed to be at by a certain day? You know, as much as this fast is supposed to get me relaxing and laid back, I mean, I had today a checklist of things to do before the fast. You know, this is day 0. And today, because my blood test got put later, I had to fast. So I have not eaten since midnight last night. Dr. Klaper wrote a little message to me saying, well, maybe you want to start your water fast today.
That's not what it says on my calendar.
What the fuck is wrong with you? Have you lost your fucking mind? Well, you're already there. You got to jump on it. You've already gotten over some of the hunger. Why not just, what are you talking about? We made a fucking plan, motherfucker, and you are not going to fuck it up. We are starting the fast on July 10th, and we are going until the blood pressure is what you say it should be, and I'm going to start doing shows again on August 18th, and you fuck with that, motherfucker. We have got trouble. One little simple text from you.
Whoa, I know the power of these thumbs. Oh, my.
But you, that kind of drive in me, I plan the dive the plan.
I guess.
It's very hard to change things on you. And you also did this thing. Oh, well, you know what we should do?
Yeah.
We should end this show and start another one. We're going to do 2 shows with you. Cool. And we'll start another one right away. But for right now, what?
We're teased. We're taking you through your fast.
We're going to take through my fast, yeah. We're also going to talk about the misery I'll have and the joy I'll have. But for right now, that was Penn Sunday School.
That was Penn Sunday School.
Cha-cha-cha.
And to our listening,
You become naked.
angels sang and round us ran music of the spheres. That was Penn Sunday.
Yeah, we're talking to Dr. Michael Klaper, a real good doctor. No,
Turns out he's a real doctor.
Not a fake
You
doctor.
said he was a nut.
Well, I said he was a nut earlier. We don't think you're a nut, I said. I'm trying to find a way that he says stuff that nuts say, but he's not a nut because I'm entrusting my life to him for the next 3, 4, 5 weeks.
If you don't survive, you get your money back.
And you know I love you.
This is Penn Sunday School. And to our listening ears, all angels sing and round us rings the music of the spheres.
Brothers and sisters, welcome to Penn Sunday School, starring Penn Gillette. My name is Michael Godot. Penn, Matt Donnelly, and I are broadcasting from the Show Creator Studios in Las Vegas. On today's show, we've got the second part of our conversation with Penn's water fasting guru, Dr. Michael Klaper. You won't be surprised to learn he's also a sensible, healthy, vegetable-based diet doctor. He's the author of Sense and Nonsense in Nutrition. A look at today's most common health myths. Here he is, preaching love, Mr. Penn Gillette.
Very good.
Yeah. So we're going to just kind of continue where we were. Now,
So this is if this is your first episode of Penn Sunday School, go back one.
yeah, that easy. You know, I have been doing. I sent you my records. I've been doing intermittent fasting, which I think you consider 20 hours a day, intermittent fasting.
Oh, 18.
18.
Right.
I do that almost half the time. Not quite. I usually have my meal at 5:30, Never eat before that, very rarely. And then sometimes I have a snack at night, which is all that stops it from being intermittent fasting all the time. Now, that does a different thing physiologically than long-term fasting, right?
It does. You don't go into the severe ketosis that you do on a water fast, but any time the body, staying in the constantly fed state is not a natural thing. Most other animals don't do that, and every time the body is given a break from eating, so much energy is normally used for digestion that when you're not eating food, that energy is freed up to clean our cells up. The process is called autophagy, where you go in and junk DNA and all oxidized sugars and things. The body cleans them out of the cells. There's a self-cleansing that happens, and those mechanisms start kicking in hour 12 and 18 overnight. That's why the first meal of the day is called break fast. Because even overnight, the body's starting to heal itself and clean itself out on the inside.
Bullshit. That's coincidence.
You're right.
Not sold.
It's just the words.
I don't want to betray any confidence here, but our friend Cray Ray did the whole fast thing up at True North with y'all, and had a horrible problem coming to refeeding with impacted stuff. How are you going to make that not happen to me? Because I don't want that to happen to me. You're going to stop that from happening to me.
I absolutely am.
And how are you going to do that?
Right, exactly. Because
you should explain what the problem is. Some
you
people
follow doctor's orders. If one wants to do a water fast, the important aspect is the first bowel movement after the water fast. As nobody comes into a water fast with a totally empty intestinal tract. There's always going to be fiber left in from meals past, and when that food material gets down to the colon, the main job of the colon is to extract water out of the fecal mass, and as the fecal mass sits in the colon, it gets drier and drier, and for that reason, especially if the last meals have been animal flesh in any form, chickens, fish, whatever, white bread, processed food, you put a mass of that in the colon, let it sit there for a week or two, and the colon's going to turn into a brick, and that first bowel movement's a bowel movement.
Shit a brick!
You should have brick. That's where it came from.
Again, I call it coincidence.
Exactly. So that's why we tell folks, if you're going to go into water fast, man, you just want to eat fruits and vegetables. The only thing you want sitting in that colon is what came from papayas and bananas and basically fruit and vegetable
Well,
fiber.
I started on Friday eating salads, baked potatoes, and lots and lots and lots and lots of fruit.
Yep.
Because I could live on just fruit.
And again, the amount that you see Penn eat, I'm sure would surprise you.
I lost 6.4 pounds since Friday, because I forget how much salt and oil and little stuff sneaks in. I'll have a little piece of bread here, I'll do this, I'll do that, as much as I try to be careful. When I finally went back on it, and instantly, that's the thing that's so embarrassing. I'd gone out for Indian food, vegetarian Indian food, which of course means full of butter, but vegetarian Indian food that was wonderful. I had been doing that kind of stuff. What I would have considered to be total hippie eating just 4 years ago now seemed a little bit like fast food. And I went to, just the past 4 days, I went to strictly vegetables and fruit and felt so much better and dropped like 6.5 pounds before I start the fast. So this is a little bit like cleaning up before the maid comes. I'm going to start a fast, so let's lose some weight ahead of time, shall we?
Dr. Penn,
you say You say that I will not have impacted brick shit in my colon, ripping it apart, because I'm going to tell you, I know people. You'll get fucked up. They'll break your legs. I don't care how much fasting you do or how good your diet is. I know guys that'll make you not healthy. Was that threat too veiled?
It might be. He's right behind you. Yeah, he's creeping up. Ready Rich is right behind you. That's really what we're getting at.
But that'll be okay.
You'll be fine.
And
Exactly.
I
You
don't
did
do
the right thing.
Anything else about that or anything?
Nope, you're going to do just fine. But Dr. Penn, you just cured so many people. What came out of your lips was so golden, as far as the effect of a really
Vegetable
healthy,
golden,
clean diet.
A golden potato.
Vegetable golden, yeah,
vegetable
not
golden. But really, what you recounted, your experience when you shifted into a really clean plant-based diet and all these fruits, etc. Man, you dropped weight. You felt better.
You feel much better.
Absolutely.
And finally,
That's the truth.
after 3 years, I think I kind of sort of understand salads.
Yeah.
They can kind of be really good. Now let's talk. We're going to talk about what I'm going to go through day by day.
Yep.
But Matt Donnelly,
Yeah.
you lost. Would you tell your story?
Sure, I will. I lost 100 pounds.
Good for you, man.
Doing the
your life.
same thing. Cray Ray took me down.
Right.
I took the fat vegan path back,
Right.
and I regained now basically between 60 and 70 pounds of the pounds I lost.
Oh,
Now, again, high blood pressure, which is so when Penn asked me to go through this possible fast with him, I really wanted to for both the blood pressure reasons and the psychedelic reasons. I was really interested in the psychedelic reasons.
Well, we'll get to the psychedelic.
Yes.
Yeah.
But Furman was in here when Penn was posturing this towards me, and he looked at me, just looked at me. You know, I'm not where I should be, and he said, "Don't do it. You don't need to fast at the weight you're at. You need to get your weight down. Then you can think about fasting, right?" And obviously that was difficult to hear, but it's true. I'm having a very difficult time because while I don't find all the things I used to eat disgusting, I just find I have equal things. I do honestly still love my carrot, cauliflower, curry, stews, and I still love my vegetarian chili, but I also still like terrible things. And
So we just added more food for you to eat. That's all we
Doubled it
accomplished
up.
with you.
it really is. That's really the case. And so my blood pressure did go to an alarming level. I should have been stroking out. They didn't want me to leave the room. It went to 265 over 160. And they literally were like, you're not leaving this room,
Yeah.
And I got it down with off meds on, through 100 pounds off meds, was back down. Now I float in the 130 to 120 to 130 range. So even with still that 30 pounds off, my body still seems to feel okay at where it's at. I still feel good energy-wise. I don't feel as lethargic as I did when I was at my 300-pound weight. I still don't feel as good as I did when I was down to in my low 200s, and my size 42 suit still hanging there in my closet as a reminder that I used to be that thin. It's hard. And I also see a therapist. I talked to other people who went through this big weight loss thing, and it wasn't as emotional for them as it was for me. Weird things like I realized, like when I eat poorly, it's not out of habit. It's not even out of social pressure. It's something I do alone.
Yes.
Like it's something I insist on. Like if I'm going to eat crap, I go somewhere else by myself and do it there. And it's it's honestly almost like a narcotic-like relationship.
Sure.
With it. And so it's hard.
That's where Jesus fed you.
That's right. So I guess it's there, and there are other people out there like me, and some of it comes from it all started to really build back up when I went on antidepressants, and I don't know if that. I think I processed that as I was psychotic, it took a really fixated mind to lose 100 pounds in 90 days, and I did that through a lot of beating myself up to motivate myself kind of thing. And then it seemed like with antidepressants, I just lost that gear to be hard on myself, and also seemed like a goal of taking antidepressants was to stop doing that to myself. And so now I feel less equipped than I did to keep the weight off or to get back to that place.
Right.
So is this something you've heard before?
Sure.
Is this like, and then what? I guess like. I got you in the room.
Right.
You know, other people have done this too, and they almost. And I hate that they find me as a public figure with this podcast as solace. Like they find an outlet. Like, hey, Matt, I put my weight back on too. You know. I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be that guy to you.
Right, sure.
Tubby Jesus.
Yeah, right. That's so beautiful what you shared with us just now, and you confided. It's not easy to say this is what I do when I'm alone, and that's a pretty intimate thing to share. And that's indeed when most everybody, myself included, when we're alone and feeling sorry for ourselves or whatever. Boy, that sugary whatever sure looks good, and
Yeah.
Absolutely, and it's human nature. And done. And you have to come to terms, you know. You have an alcoholic, you can't tell him, well, just a half a beer a day, you know.
Right.
He's got to stop. Or he keeps drinking. And
Oh, that snowballing logic is completely true. Like, and it's still, you can still know it and still not be able to do it, right? Where you go like,
right. Yep.
oh, I'm just gonna have a bite of this. I've been 90% fantastic today.
Right,
Right.
exactly.
And then you take that one bite, and your brain immediately, even though I know it's gonna happen, my brain immediately goes, well, you've already done that.
right.
Might as well just pig out, make it a bad
Eat the
day.
box.
Absolutely.
Then you wake up tomorrow and say I had a bad day. And as much as it sounds so dumb saying that out loud,
Yeah.
and as much as even when I know that I'm going to cave on that one bite,
Yeah.
I really know it's going to snowball, and yet that's the process I go through.
Sure. So, lots to say about this, and if you want me, you know, and it's what keeps Overeaters Anonymous going and Weight Watchers, etc. And if you're expecting me to be able to utter the magic amulet words that if you just say these things, you'll never have a craving for anything bad again, I don't have those words here.
No, I
but-
tried. All right, thanks, guys.
Wrap it up.
That was Penn.
But the fact is, you lost 100 pounds eating healthy food. And they say once you look behind the curtain, you can't pretend you don't know what's behind the curtain. You did
Right.
that. Your body knows it, your head knows it, and you know the power of this.
And I've also hit this new altitude. I still only eat twice a day. Certain habits, I still can go very long periods of time without eating, and I don't feel bad. If I have a big, I had to do 2 big shows for Mac, I did not eat.
Right.
Like that was easy.
Yeah.
You know, like I
Sure.
still have those habits.
Good, and look how much you've learned about your body, about food, about eating itself. This is a wonderful process, and some people may have to fall off the wagon 12 times until they wind up in Penn's place, where you just know I can't do this shit anymore. I just got to get on with this.
Right.
But that said, just want to point out a couple other things: the cravings, etc., and the depression. We used to think when I was in med school there were 2 kinds of depression. Exogenous, where something bad happened to you, lost a spouse or whatever, and it's reasonable to get depressed. But that was only 10% of depressions. 90% was so-called endogenous depression, where we don't know the cause, some chemical imbalance, and so take the SSRIs to try and correct the balance. Well, now as we're understanding the role that our microbiome, the critters that live in our gut, these are not passive bystanders. These guys are active participants in everything in our metabolism, our immune system, etc., our endocrinology, and our neurochemistry. They put out waste products like norepinephrine and dopamine and serotonin, and these molecules get up to our brain and change our mood. And we're seeing a lot of the folks who this depression just settled on these individuals. I would ask, what have you been eating? What kind of microbes did you summon up with your food that is now ricocheting back on you and causing depression? And just to give you a window, that jumping back on the healthy food wagon there might be a key to lifting off the depression, so you don't need the pills, which might
So you're
change your
saying
appetite.
You're saying it absolutely inverse what Matt says. You're saying you get depressed and therefore you eat. You're saying you eat, therefore he gets depressed. Is that what's happening?
I think that's also fair. I think I just expected when I lost 100 pounds, I thought I would naturally level out.
Right.
I certainly have a case for that 10% depression scenario
Right.
that
Yeah,
you talked about.
sure.
it just didn't happen for me. Like I still felt very down and depressed.
Yeah.
Even though I'd lost 100 pounds.
Yeah.
And that's when that's when people lead me towards antidepressants.
Yeah, I see. And again, you've been carrying a really abnormal weight. Obesity, the fatty tissue puts out these molecules called inflammatory cytokines. They set off inflammation throughout the body, and so obesity is a state of inflammation. And you've been in that state for decades, and it affects everything in your body, including brain chemistry, etc. Again, it's only been 12 months, 16 months, whatever.
All right, go ahead. Let's corner me in. Let's do it right now. So you're saying that I didn't stay at that low weight long enough to feel the effects.
Oh, for one, but also cut yourself some slack. This is a major change. Your chemistry was so abnormal for so long, and then this very other abnormal state was inflicted upon it. Your metabolism, your neurochemistry has been getting jerked all around, but it's okay. It's not a bad thing. It's so good you're not at that big weight, and for all sorts of reasons. But I'm not surprised that there might have been emotional concomitants and things showed up. It's okay. It's all okay. You may have to go through the weight loss, weight gain thing, a few times, but the better angel in you knows that you got to get on with this already, and you will. And each time you learn more about it, and it gets easier. And what Penn said earlier, that the force of habits, the food preferences that we develop as kids and throughout our early years are so powerful that you can't expect them to disappear in X number of months just because you lost some weight. They're still in there, in that neuro patterning in there. They'll slowly yield, as Penn is finding out. But you're doing great. It's wonderful what you've done, and you're kind of you're on a ledge right now. But you've really slogged up the mountain with that initial weight loss, and you're in a place where it's kind of vibrating still. You'll do it again.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. And honestly, the time we spent with Dr. Furman to now, I have felt it much more like evening out of kind of like just feeling at least not. It doesn't feel as high stakes to me as it used to.
Good.
And so it feels more approachable.
Yeah, be easy on yourself. You're making great progress, and you're taking your whole metabolism from decades and turning it over to the right side there.
Yeah.
And it's not untoward what's happening at all.
Okay. I just know that thank you, and I know Penn want to bring it up, and I just know that we have a lot of listeners who.
It's really important. Yeah, there's the whole craving thing, and then there's everybody's emotional reaction to food, and there are people with true food distortion syndromes, where the grossly obese people who just sit in the room and shovel in Oreos, etc. They've got a whole if they were sexually assaulted when they were 12, and they're eating to try and assuage those wounds, your heart goes out to them. But that's in the psychiatry, counseling realm I'm talking mostly from straight physiology.
Of all the things you've done, you didn't get into that?
I want to point out that Oreos are vegan. Very clear. Good know.
Yeah.
What happened with your weight? Tell your story a little bit.
Yeah, I lost 55 pounds in 12 weeks.
Wow.
And feel a million times better. And 15 of it's come back over the last how long? 3 years? 3 years?
It's been 3 years.
What came back into your diet?
More animals than should. they keep sneaking up behind me, and I have to kill them. It's not my fault. But the rebalancing has been a big problem for me. You know what I mean? Like you say I can't eat chicken. Well, I still like chicken wings. You know what I mean?
Although, if you have cauliflower.
Yes.
Chicken wings, the cauliflower prepared the same way, still salty, still shitty for you,
right?
But doesn't have that awful sinewy.
Right. That's true.
Yeah.
Listen, fat vegan over here. I'm telling you, yes, buffalo cauliflower is delicious.
And at this point, the meal I want right now, if you ask me, is different than it used to be. What's the meal I want right now? The salad bar at Whole Foods.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Because there's nothing better than that salad bar at Whole Foods. Nothing on earth.
Did you ever?
That's as good as chicken. That's as good as having, in Louisiana fried chicken and gravy.
Not better than Louisiana fried chicken.
It's as good.
We'll take that. We'll take that.
It comes to me as, what you can have whatever you want for dinner. What do you want? I want that salad bar.
Look at that. That's profound. That's wonderful.
It is a big difference. A big difference in how I feel and how I do. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Now, ready, Rich, you want to talk about anything with your
I
diet?
don't have a mic.
What's that?
I don't have a mic.
He doesn't have a mic. The biggest problem has been that he lost his mic.
Okay. Do you want to grab a mic and talk?
All right, hold on.
Where are you at, Reddy? He's going to grab a mic. He's going to do a real. He's going to testify.
He's going to sing.
You can just get around the mic with him like George and Paul when John's singing lead.
Paperback Writer. Okay. I don't have a camera either.
Okay.
That's all right. What do you want to know?
I just want to know where you are with your weight loss and diet. What are you eating now and how you feeling?
Okay, so I was somewhere over 310.
Really?
We don't know.
As a group, we've done well.
Wow.
I don't know if you knew
I
that.
salute you, sir. That's remarkable.
I'm 218 today.
Wow. Good for you.
I have another psychological thing. I feel like when I get to 210, I've lost 100 pounds, and that's all I care about. And then I quit, and I just go back and forth between 210, 220.
Wow.
But I've been recently diagnosed with type 2.
Mm-hmm.
So I now have an impetus to go the rest of the way.
Mm-hmm.
Started the medication a month ago, and I've been doing maintenance for this month just so that we know where the numbers are.
Okay.
And had my doctor's appointment today, and he gave me permission to go ahead and finish the job.
Excellent. Good for you. So.
And what are you going to do for your diet to finish the job?
Well, I've just been doing all salad all the time. I've just been eating way too much of it for the last month.
No, you can't eat too much salad. Yeah, and there's something else going on.
Well,
I mean, it's maintenance. I'm just at maintenance. I haven't been putting on weight or anything.
Uh-huh. Okay, but seriously, the beauty of eating like this is that you can have all the salad you want, you can have all the vegetable soup you want, all the steamed veggies and potatoes and rice, as long as you're not putting a lot of fat on it as well. But
Right.
It's a guilt-free way to eat there. So have more salad.
And my kryptonite there is Caesars. I do Caesars every now and then.
That's the issue. That's the fat that you put on it. Right, fair enough. Honestly,
If you do lemon juice and sriracha, you'll be fine.
Ooh, that's a good one.
I've been avoiding the sriracha because of it's sugar and salt also.
Yeah, but it's
Fair
not
enough,
fat.
but it still doesn't have the fat, so it won't stick to you. Good. You guys are very sophisticated, very impressive, and it's remarkable. You guys all lost all this weight. That's a wonderful thing that you did.
Well, what's our figure now for people who listen to our show? It's 56,000.
Oh,
30,000?
It's on the other page.
Okay, I haven't got my computer with me.
So my
It's
question,
about 40,000.
What's that?
my question for you is, do you want me to join you doing potatoes or something while you're fasting?
Well, you can stop by and do that. Sure,
Yes, sure.
Dr. Klaper, if he wants
Absolutely.
to help you out a little bit.
Because I've never done that part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Come on by. We'll connect.
Oh, the potato adventure.
A great potato adventure.
But there's a lot of people who've lost a lot of weight.
Make sure you talk to Ray, because Ray has a specific advice during the potato thing that you should have. It is not eat potatoes for 2 weeks. It's a psychological thriller. There are things that will happen to you and adventures that Ray has the information for you.
Yeah, Cray Ray gets so crazy that people have misinterpreted this as the potato diet. And we know he doesn't understand. If you've been in show business as long as we have, you understand that what you say will be misinterpreted. And there's no way around that. And you just have to try to believe that most of what you're trying to say gets out. I mean, we did a show called Bullshit. We talked about the 9/11 truthers, and there are web pages that now explain that I am a Zionist CIA operative who was hired by the CIA to do that. You cannot expect that everything you say, I have to tell Ray this over and over, because one person on Twitter misrepresents things that I've said, it does not mean that the message has fallen entirely on deaf ears. Some people do pay attention. Some people do learn. Some people do well. I have never had a drug in my life, other than prescriptions. Your view of drugs, of course, I agree with now, but never recreational drug, nor alcohol. And Michael Pollan just wrote the book on Changing Your Mind. You're familiar with that? About microdoses of LSD and psilocybin. And Sam Harris, who was the one who got me meditating 3 years ago, which I think is also a non-trivial part of the change I've gone through. Probably, maybe even possibly a non-trivial part of the blood pressure. I am not willing right now to dose up with psilocybin or do LSD, but they always say it's always parenthetical. I can't find anybody who's saying this outright. That the kind of brain changes that you can get from psychedelics can also be done with fasting meditation. They always just say with fasting meditation, and then they never elaborate on that. I can't find anybody elaborating on that. And I am interested in that a little bit. Now, I already asked you about a book about this or something, but I'd love you to talk a little bit about what. And this is, I realize this is you as a layperson. I don't want to make you speak on something you don't feel you know. But you have seen people go through psychological changes with fasting as well as physiological. Can you just talk about anything that interests you about that?
Oh, sure. It kind of snuck up on me at True North Health Center. This is a converted apartment complex, and there's 20 apartments there, and so we have room for 40 people to be fasting. And you take their health in your hands, and so we have interns on call, and everybody's seen twice a day, get their blood pressure checked, and I make rounds with the interns as one of the attending physicians, and so once or twice a week, I knock on everybody's door, we go in, check their vital signs, and see how they're doing and whether it's safe for them to continue fasting or not. Well, it didn't take long before we were knocking on the doors of patients on day 30 of a water fast, or day 34 of a 40-day water fast. And when they first came in, they were hyper and nervous and anxious about various things. Boy, you knock on the door day 34 of a water fast, and you can feel it in the air when you walk in the room. And often the soft music is going, a little candle in the back, and then they come, "Good morning, doctor." "How are you?" "Oh, I'm fine." "No, everything? No, I'm not hungry." "Oh, I'm feeling quite well, thank you." And this was not an infrequent phenomenon. And I can't say, now I would love to put these people in a functional MRI scanner and see what's really going on.
You're not thinking this is a near-death experience?
No.
34 days.
Really. But on a fast, we have to realize that everything changes on a fast. Certainly your blood chemistry changes. Well, your urine chemistry is going to change. Your saliva chemistry will change. Your tear chemistry changes. Everything changes. How can your cerebral spinal fluid and the neurochemistry in your brain not change? Of course it does. And we would see this sometimes on day 8 or 10, day 18. Everybody was different. But very often as the fast goes on and people work through their, I don't know, somewhat psychological issues, but as the fast exerts its beneficial effects, and the pain goes away, and the joints stop hurting, and the coughing stops, they feel so much better, and a lot of their bodily maladies going away certainly helps their confidence that things are going to be okay. There was a real feeling of goodness in their lives. Some of them said they had some emotional, psychological come-tos regarding either their own lives or relationships with the people that are in their lives, and I didn't feel it was appropriate to muck around in that. I was just very glad that it happened. But clearly, past day 10, 12, 14, you're in a different biochemical state, and it certainly is going to affect your mentation and emotions as well. And but it's totally unpredictable. So some people don't feel anything. But
Do you think maybe it's possible that it's 15 days of sitting in an apartment and doing nothing? You know what I mean? How often in your life do you have,
well, you don't,
I don't have to go do something, I don't have to do anything for the next 30 days?
Right. Yeah. They don't sit in the apartment. They get outside, walk in the sunshine, they go to cooking class, you're interacting with other people. It's not like that you're, and seriously, we don't want people laying in bed. We want them up and moving around, and drinking and breathing, and interacting with folks. This is not about isolation or immobility by any stretch of the imagination. But by the same token, we don't want you to do a lot of physical work. We don't want you burning down your blood sugar. We don't want you burning muscle tissue. So it's a time of easy moving, easy being.
Now, we should address a few other things, like the funk. The funk. One of the things he told me that shocked me was I'm not going to be able to use toothpaste. I brush my teeth. That's what I mean by the funk.
Well, that's fun.
Brush my teeth with water, no mouthwash, right? Then you threw in at the end, just kind of threw in there, well, we don't want you standing up in the shower, and we shouldn't really get you in and out of a bathtub. And by the way, you're going to go into ketosis. What kind? I picture that maybe I'm going to look like Pigpen of the
cloud and bugs flying around you.
With a cloud with smell lines coming out of me. What happens with that? Are people unpleasant to be around in that way? Or
no, not really.
The hygiene's okay?
The hygiene's fine. The idea behind the toothpaste is that if we want to, fasting is a time for things to move out of the body. The body is cleansing itself, and if you're swallowing mint flavors and fluorides and various things in toothpaste, one, there's often a little sugar in it, so we don't want to take it out of ketosis, so it probably wouldn't. But we just don't want anything coming in. It's a time for things to go out. So hence the water admonition there.
And does people's breath get awful?
Yes. That pause was yes.
Well, they say it does. The people feel it does. We don't smell it. It is noticeable, but to the person, they can be aware of it. And the prescription against showering is strictly blood pressure reasons. We don't want anybody passing out in the shower, and that can certainly happen. When you're standing in one place, gravity pulls blood down to your legs, the hot water pulls it out to your skin, blood in your legs and your skin ain't going up to your head, and people can pass out.
Well, you know, I enjoy baths more than I enjoy eating.
Right.
So we may have some arguments about that.
Well, we'll just have to engineer it properly. Seriously.
Could you put a sheet of plastic on the ground in the yard and just lay down on it and have somebody hose you off?
Yes, you can. Yes,
all right, there you go. So we've solved this.
That'll certainly work well.
Can we get one of those
dog
things?
wash place would probably work.
Yeah, can we get one of those things that like moves dolphins from one tank to another?
Yes, right. Yes, those would work well.
I also, you talk about, we know the drugs that I'm on, and I'm going to be more frank than I thought I was going to be on this. 2 blood pressure drugs. I'm also on some Furman
B vitamins, right?
B vitamins, that I'm supposed to be on. I stop all of those during that. An aspirin for my heart, I stop that. I am also on a prophylactic dose of Valtrex for herpes. Now, I had to stop that in order to get a shingles vaccine a while ago. I had to come off it and did not have an outbreak. But I've been on this now for 20 years prophylactically to stop from having outbreaks. Is there anything that fasting is going to help with that, or is that one drug I'll go back on? I'm asking you to guess. I know you can't predict. I'm asking you to guess.
Well, there's no question. Wounds heal better on a fast. The immune system gets spruced up on a fast. Again, the body's shifting into the survival mode, and it's the time where you heal saber-toothed tiger wounds. You know, when you get injured, you go under a tree for a few days.
Now, I didn't know you were bringing a saber-toothed tiger.
You wonder what that expense was.
But the
day 16 is when you run. You run and you hide and you climb like you've never climbed before.
but again, going back to that primordial time there, when we got wounds there, what would you do? You'd crawl in a tree, you wouldn't eat, you just lay there, and the wounds healed faster because, again, that energy that would be going to digesting food, the body uses to heal up those wounds. And so the immune system gets spruced up in a fast. We see this. And the odds of getting an outbreak during the fast are really low. And could you, we'll talk about it, but I consider staying off of it. If you can always go back on it if you get an outbreak, but you might be past it.
Wow. That would be something.
Yeah.
And my CPAP machine
same
might go away.
Yeah, absolutely.
If that changes my whole travel. Because now, because of TSA, I have to ship all my bags over because I don't want to fuck around with it.
Right,
But if I lose, of course, I love my CPAP machine. My CPAP machine, whatever it was 15 years ago, gave me the gift of sleep, which I was doing very badly before that. But boy, if that particular friend goes away, it would make traveling much easier.
You could record that noise and put it on your phone.
It's already on the phone. I mean, there's all sorts of white noise generators you can get.
Let me say something to your audience, though, regarding those medications. If you're doing a water fast, medications get potentiated. We see all sorts of side effects. That's why you shouldn't do a water fast at all if you're on medications, and if you are, they either need to be stopped or they need to be monitored, reduced at least by half and monitored. And the reason why we're doing this with Penn is that I'm here and we're going to be checking his blood pressure twice a day, and we're going to be hovering over him to make sure that blood pressure doesn't spike. It won't. I've never seen it happen on a water fast. Blood pressure won't go up. But I'm just telling your listeners, don't go if you're on medications, don't start a water fast.
We've said this. We can't say this enough.
Good.
If you're going to go for any length of time on a fast, you've got to have medical intervention. You just need to have someone watching you.
Yeah, don't do a fast if you're on pills, and don't stop the pills to do a fast.
Right.
Yeah.
You can't do either of those.
Right. No.
Some things that people might like is one of the things that he made me do, forced me to do, was buy a recliner. You're a big fan of the
big lazy boy man.
I am. When we're up and moving around, our leg muscles are pumping blood back to our heart. But if you're sitting around, the blood will pool down in your legs. Now, that's just an occupational hazard of 20th century life, the 21st century. But a water fast is going to compound that. As the days go on, the amount of blood circulating decreases. You pee off a lot of your blood volume, and so your blood pressure is going to come down. And between lower blood pressure and then blood pooling in the legs, if you were to sit at like we are here, and we're all sitting here and the blood's pooling in our legs here, my concern is by day 10 or 20 of the water fast, you sit upright like this and you'll get lightheaded sitting in the chair, and for that reason, prolonged sitting as the fast goes on should be done with those legs up. But
the walking, when you're walking and moving, you are generating enough muscle movement to continue to help.
So you should get up every hour and walk around. You can get up, slowly and carefully.
Where did you find a recliner for a 6'7" person?
Oh, it's hard. It was hard. I had to go actually lazy boy shopping.
You did?
And I finally had to find one that had a headrest that came up. So, because you know the way I live, when we found a recliner that was really good and worked well, we bought 10 of them.
See it when at work and when it...
No, they're all in the home theater. They were so comfortable. They were there and they have USB plugs so that when you come over to watch a movie, you can
charge
be all
your
jacked
phone.
and have your two screens going and everything else. But I now will be in the recliner. Now I'm hesitant to bring this up because
what are you hesitant to bring up at this point?
For God's sake!
Why now?
Because I could lose. I've been fighting with Cray Ray about this for over 3 years. Okay, I know that Dr. Klaper is going to side with Cray Ray, and that's heartbreaking because I don't want him to be wrong about this, but I know he will be wrong. When I was on my 3 months, I was still doing shows as I was losing 0.9 pounds a day, and that was my average, was 0.9 pounds a day that I lost for that time. I was still doing shows. So I was eating no fruit, no nuts, and whole plants. I was eating salads and mostly corn stew with beans. And I had gone to a very high-calorie diet to a very restricted diet. And I was losing weight at huge, huge speeds. And then I would go out on stage to do the show, and I would get lightheaded. I got lightheaded to the point a couple times of going up in my lines. A couple times it was unprofessional, and a couple times it seemed dangerous. I would lose my place in the show, which is one problem. That's unprofessional. That's not fair to Teller or the audience. It happened rarely, but it happened. And I would also feel a little bit unsteady, which is not good for health purposes. This started happening pretty often, and I found if I ate a lot of food beforehand, once again, the good food that you would approve of, but a lot of it, huge amounts, I got less of that. Cray Ray says that has to do with the blood pooling my legs and my blood pressure going down. He's wrong. It felt like it was something related directly to hunger. It felt like it was not a blood pressure thing. It felt like like I didn't eat enough. It felt like I did not have enough energy in my body. That's why I was getting lightheaded. Are you going to side with him?
No.
Yeah! Boy, yes! Oh, boy. I can't wait to
A lot of commitment there.
Oh, man.
Well, there's a component of it, I would think, and that's one reason
We
why
just created another podcast. Ray's gonna call.
But clearly, there was something metabolic happening with you, and the two probably meet. As people get hungry, that makes the adrenal glands put out more adrenaline, and that can raise your pressure. We could postulate over a glass of brandy, 5 different mechanisms by which either blood sugar levels, cortisol levels, adrenaline levels. Something was changing there clearly that allowed these changes. And ultimately, they were changes in blood pressure, but it was more than just gravity, clearly. And when you ate a big meal, that may have had a mechanical effect by just pushing on the big blood vessels in the abdomen.
Yeah, that was Cray Ray's point.
It might have created pressure up there. Accident, what happened? It eventually stopped happening?
Yeah. Well, it stopped happening. It never stopped happening while I was losing 0.9 pounds a day.
Right.
When I went to adding in fruit and adding in nuts, and it leveled off, it went away entirely. Entirely. And I'm still terrified. I have not dared to do this ever. I have not dared to do the show without eating beforehand. I have gone out and done lectures earlier in the day where I've done an hour on stage, an empty stomach. I went on Jeopardy. Who won on that show I was on?
You?
Yeah, that was right. I went on Jeopardy, and this was kind of a big deal to me.
And I'm afraid, Dr. Klaper, we subject every guest to this. How many times have you won Jeopardy?
Twice.
Is that true?
Yeah.
Wait.
Yeah.
And not Baby Jeopardy?
No
Or
real
not
Jeopardy.
Celebrity?
Oh, that's fabulous.
Jeopardy.
Oh, man. Oh, man.
should have kept my mouth shut.
He would have had a bite.
the day
He
was
would have been able to
coming.
hit me right in the face with that. But I went on Jeopardy hungry and did great. I've still not dared to do a Penn and Teller show, which is 2.5 hours of performing without eating beforehand. Is that just me being superstitious?
No, but you're physiologically different than you were 36 months ago, 24 months ago, 12 months ago. Everything is changing in you, in your neurochemistry, in your vascular system, and your GI system.
Twice you won Jeopardy?
Yeah, I won 2 games, lost on the third.
But what I meant to say was, how many times have I lost on Jeopardy, Godot?
I think none.
Yeah, that's our point.
Yeah, he's lost loser. Jeopardy loser.
Undefeated.
I love so much that you won on Jeopardy twice. So you were saying,
Right,
before.
yeah. There's a good chance that you just pass through that, but it isn't going to come back. You're going to be a different guy, and this fast is going to retune things as well. I'll bet you don't have a lot of anxiety about it. I don't think that's going to be happening again. We'll deal with it when it does. But
I'm absolutely dropping off just to think of Trivial Pursuit at your house. While you two go through your long days.
Yeah, we can play some good.
Today I like I said, I was not eating because of my blood test I had to get, and I have a steam room at my house, and boy, I get in the steam room and I got wicked lightheaded, and I liked it. Not supposed to like it, am I?
Wow, not terribly.
I like feeling.
And again, that's the heat bringing all the blood.
Careful there.
That's heat bringing all the blood to the
heat
surface.
dilates the blood vessels, so
Yeah.
it's just trying to get rid of the heat there. And,
I'm learning.
Yay, good for you. Yeah, right. Careful with that and getting up. Were you sitting or laying?
We're just going to do
Sitting.
yeah,
just do
so-
general medical questions now. Can we just make
Yes,
theories?
absolutely.
If you have a cold
Yeah.
and getting a temperature causes viruses to die, why does sitting in a jacuzzi not cause viruses to die? Could you accelerate your healing by getting into a jacuzzi with a cold? Would that raise your blood temperature enough to do that kind of thing?
In theory, it depends on the virus, etc. But there's some theory and some validity behind that. And these infrared saunas and things that raise your temperature up, yes, it seems.
All right, there we
But
go.
once you get the hot tub temperature to 220, the virus will die.
Absolutely.
Almost guaranteed.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, at the same time, my eyes cook.
The fork goes
It
in.
depends on what else you want to accomplish.
Really.
If all you care about is killing the virus,
Yep.
we can do that. You can dive into the lava.
Right.
Because he lived in Hawaii for 11
Indeed,
years.
for 11
Nice.
years.
He
yeah.
knows his Hawaii. What's that?
Maui.
Can you retake that joke for our international audience?
What I just say?
Were you Fahrenheit, Celsius?
So if you just have if you just put your hot tub up to 100 Celsius, then the virus is dead, right?
There you
Yeah,
go.
when the fork slips in easily into the skin.
Yeah, that's how you can tell you're done.
Yeah, you're done. Yeah.
So I am going to do this adventure.
You are.
And
And we're gonna make sure
I
it goes
will.
well.
I think I'm going to go home tonight because I can't change my plan. I'm going to have a salad.
Okay.
And enough pomegranates to fill your head.
Great.
And
Enjoy.
I've been looking forward to those.
Last
We have
Supper.
recliner.
Great.
We have eliminated the food from the house. My wife's still there finishing up some stuff for director's cut, so people are around. They still have sodas
Some
and bring in
activity.
lunches and stuff, but that'll fade away in the next 2 or 3 days. Now, tomorrow
Right.
is not a special day because that won't be my fast hitting. What will I be going through? So Tuesday, the fast starts.
Right.
Nothing, except I'm a little hungry when I go to sleep.
5:30 p.m.
Right.
Yeah.
You're going to be drinking water. You're going to be sipping steadily. You're going to go through a good 4 16-ounce glasses at least, if not more.
I drink a lot of water,
That's
mostly
fine.
seltzer, and I drink a lot of it.
Absolutely, that's perfectly fine. And I'm going to come over at least once a day, if not twice a day. I'm going to have you step on a scale. I'm going to feel your pulse. So much information at pulse. I want it nice and steady and slow. I'm going to check your blood pressure, and then some mornings I'm going to stick your finger and check your blood sugar. And I'm going to say, how you doing? How you feeling? Are you hungry? Not hungry? What's happening? And I'm going to keep careful clinical assessment going here. And if you're classic and with your kind of build, and don't hold me to this, but I would predict that for your hunger is going to be gone. If you're starting tomorrow, Tuesday. Tomorrow you'll be hungry. Wednesday you'll be hungry. Thursday and certainly Friday. How you doing? Yeah, not terribly thinking about food. Not terribly hungry. And certainly by Saturday, the hunger ought to be pretty much gone. I'll be really surprised. About 1 out of 10 folks on a fast, I was hungry all the way through, but the vast majority of folks, especially if they're not the real skinny ones, by day 4 or 5, the hunger's pretty much gone. The ketosis pretty much abolishes that. And that often brings with it, because that energy that we'd be digesting our food with is freed up. People feel energetic. They feel light. They stop me in the courtyard. Doc, I haven't felt this good in years. I haven't eaten in 3 weeks, but I feel great. So I'm predicting that you might feel a great surge of energy by the weekend, and next week should be a really good week for you. I'll be real surprised if it's not.
And I can act on that. I can go out. I can do
Yeah,
things.
you can, but realize that there's your margin for physical activity is going to be be thin. And you want to be running upstairs. You want to be doing a lot of physical exertion. You want to move slowly and easy. It should be a zen-like moving week for you. And if you're going to be spending hours and doing creative time, you ought to do it in that recliner chair with your feet up and do all your calls and movie watching and all that in that recliner chair. And as long as you move kind of easy, you ought to be feeling really good by the middle of next week.
And then what's the next step after feeling
we're going to keep watching that blood pressure, and I'm going to record it every day. And do you have a home blood pressure cuff? Do you have an automatic one?
I do, but I don't trust it.
We'll measure. We'll correlate.
You have your good one.
I have a good one with me, and so we'll
Sphygmomanometer?
A sphygmomanometer.
You guys keep saying the same thing. I don't know why you're correcting it.
Sphygmomanometer. Sphygmomanometer.
Very good. And your blood pressure will guide us. That's going to be the final arbiter we both have to answer to. And if that pressure comes down quick, we'll decide how long the fast really needs to go.
And if you had a guess right now, with all you know, how long will my fast go?
I would say between 14 to 20 days.
Oh, really? So a little shorter than we're prepared for.
Yes, but longer
and then
better.
talk a little bit, because I think it's so interesting. Talk a little bit about refeeding, which, by the way, is not a word, but maybe will be. What am I going to do when I'm done with the fast?
Right. Well, we want to get the GI system again working, but do it very gradually. Like, if you're at the stoplight in a 57 Chevy, you don't slam on the gas when it turns green. And we want to treat your GI system the same way. It hasn't seen solid food for 3 weeks. You don't want to throw down 2 veggie burgers and a veggie chili dog there to break the fast. So we want to slowly wake up your metabolism. So we usually break it with a nice glass of watermelon celery juice. It's sweet and light and very nice, and it gets a little glucose going into your system there. And we'll probably spend it.
I bet that tastes wicked good.
Oh,
sounds pretty good right now. Yeah.
It's
watermelon and celery?
I'm going to start refeeding today.
Exactly. I used to go watermelon lime.
Yeah.
But it's ambrosia. It's just after 3 weeks of not eating, that's a magical thing to break a fast with. And then we do a day on juice or two of 4 big juices, mostly green juices, but we can do a carrot and apple and things that are a bit sweet. And you don't chug-a-lug them down. You sip them. You take a mouthful, put the glass down, chew it up, mix with your saliva, swallow it, wait 5 minutes, let it get down and out into your system there, and take an hour to drink each juice, but you'll do 4 juices for a day or 2, and then we'll start adding in, go to vegetable broths, soups, and with lots of steamed vegetables, and slowly increase the fiber content. Probably add in fruits of your choice, papaya, banana. And we'll just slowly increase the fiber and the.
How long is this process?
Over the course of, it depends how long the fast.
20
goes.
years.
March's vegetable broth was amazing.
Right. The rule of thumb is however long the fast was, you need half again to do the refeed. So if it's a 2-week, so if it's a 10-day fast, take 5 days for the refeed. So if we're doing 20 days, you don't have to do
10-day refeeding,
days.
right?
But 5 to 7 days.
And how does one feel during the refeeding?
Oh, very good. It's the fast did wonderful things for you, but the food should just taste sublime.
Now, why did Cray Ray have such trouble getting his system to work again? He was eating stupid before
he was eating stupid before he came in. Make a long story short. Yeah.
Caught him.
He told me,
Caught him red-butted.
which I thought was crazy, hence the term Cray Ray. He said, the week before my fast, I wanted to make sure that I felt during a fast what a regular person would feel. So I tried to go in not as healthy as I was.
Well, he succeeded.
Thinking.
He succeeded.
Yeah.
Way to go, Ray. Prove that one.
Check.
But you think I'm going in?
You are going in just in great shape. Great shape. This is going to be a success.
This is going to be a lot of fun, and I'm going to, no doubt, because I chronicle everything, I'll be chronicling this on video, and I'm writing a lot. I've already written a lot about
As
it.
your friend, how often do you want to be checked in with?
Always. I think always. I think Kramer's coming out from Florida to spend a few days with me.
Okay.
There'll be some other people coming by. Piff has asked how much he can visit on the Vision Quest.
Yeah.
How much they can come by.
Yeah.
So yeah, you should come by, and I'm hoping Johnny.
I want to watch some Marx Brothers.
Yeah, we should watch some Marx Brothers, definitely, and we should also listen to some Fireside Theater.
Yeah.
Do some comedy discussions. Because he's too young. He doesn't know Fireside Theater. So I'm good friends with Phil Proctor.
Really?
And we can listen a little bit of that and see how it holds up. How much of that is good. Thank you, Dr. Klaper, and I think I will probably be thanking you for a good long time.
Indeed.
And over and over about all sorts of stuff. I think this is going to be all signs point to this being a very good experience.
I agree. My pleasure.
Best of luck, my friend.
Well, thank you.
luck.
Thank you so much. That was Penn Sunday School.
That was Penn Sunday School.
Cha-cha-cha.
And to our listening
You become naked.
angels sang and round us rang the music of the spheres. And was
Yeah, I could go without a salad tonight. I could go without the pomegranates tonight. But I just think we made a plan. Why not stick to it? And just to be very clear, I do not want to experience what someone experiences who does a fast roll. Okay? Is that clear? You have the directive?
We are close. That's why I'm here.
And I will report back probably a little thinner, a little gaunter, and I hope a whole lot healthier.
Yeah.
And having seen God.
God's pee.
At least said hi to him.